Welcome back to Pop Kannon. This is episode 24. I'm Jordan.
I am Robert.
Paul here.
And I'm Sarah.
What?
That's not Andrew and Brian.
Wait a minute.
I just changed my voice, guys. It's fine.
Dude, Brian is such an accomplished voice actor.
Yeah, I'm really going for like Colgate commercials next.
So, we got Paul and Sarah here for the first time.
Woo!
Paul making his return, but Sarah making her debut on Pop Kannon.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
To talk about...
You and me.
What are we talking about?
Laugh Man in Space.
Today we are talking about It Chapter 2.
Woo!
Oh, fun.
Super fun.
Fun. Probably one of the best ways to describe the movie. Better than describing it as a horror. Just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we dive into all of that, let's go through what was everyone's initial opinions on the film. Sarah, why don't you lead us off?
Okay, so I obviously went into it super excited because I love everything that involves it. And first thoughts, I was in the theater, I was enjoying it for its entertainment value. I didn't really have too many complaints while watching it, except for maybe I looked at my watch once. I kind of was leaned over to my sister-in-law and was like, I'm going to throw up a couple of times. I did it though. Unlike Eddie, no throw up.
Paul.
I threw up the whole time. No, okay, so I watched the first one right before I went to see the second one.
Oh.
For the first time ever.
Yes.
So double feature.
Right. And I tried to read the book, I think maybe 2 years ago, but the prose wasn't really clicking with me, I guess. But so I had some level of expectation, and I did see the what was that? Was it a miniseries or?
The made-for-TV miniseries from 1990.
Yeah. So and but I don't really remember the movie that much, so I just had kind of a general idea. But yeah, I just think they're just very fun, engaging movies at the basic level. So I mean, I liked it. Is what I'm trying to say.
So my expectations were very high going into this because I absolutely adored the first film. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't necessarily disappointed, but it just it didn't go the way that I thought it would. Now, I had never read the book, and I never saw the original movie, so I guess I didn't know what to expect, and it wasn't like I thought it would be, but that's not a bad thing, and we'll get into that more, but I did enjoy it. What about you, Rob?
So like you, my only basis of information regarding it is being aware of the miniseries from the 90s and watching the first film. Okay. But I will say that I fucking loved the first one, and I went into this one very excited to see how this would all play out, and I was thoroughly satisfied by what we got. I thought that the scary things were scarier, and I thought that the funny things were funnier. Everything got turned up one more across the board, and the drama and the dramatic shit from it, I thought also registered a little bit higher than the first one in terms of just they went the extra step.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if I agree with the scary part, because I didn't think this movie was scary. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't clicking with me, and I don't think there was one point in this film where I was scared.
I think this one relied on jump scares a lot more than the first one.
For sure.
So I don't know if I would say it was exactly scary. Like, there were a few times where I did flinch. And I also just don't do well with, like, vomit in general. So it was like, I guess it was more like cringe or like unsettling than like horror or like super scary.
Yep.
For me, it was all at once the idea that the adults in those roles had to walk back through shit that scared them as children that resonated with me in a way that I didn't expect it to, and made it that much more just scary within the framework of what they were doing.
Right.
Like, I guess I imagined myself in each of their positions having to go back to those places, and like that hit me at a level that I did not expect at all for it to do, at all.
You might really like the book and even the original miniseries then, because they kind of portray the story in a different way. It's not like broken up into childhood then adulthood. And so I think that was, you know, this distinction. I mean, from the get-go, when they announced like that they were doing it in like 2 parts or whatever, you kind of had this divide. So I was really interested to see how they would do that, because the way things are laid out in, you know, the previous versions of it, including the book, it's much more like it goes back and forth, like into the past and the present, like much more like
it is non-linear.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The movie is, they went out of their way to try and I guess piece it all together and make it as linear as possible.
Yeah.
Which does make sense for the movie medium,
Right?
in my opinion. But for literature, it makes more sense to have it mixed up. You know.
I liked that it was linear though. Like,
yeah, no, yeah. Like I said, I think it definitely works for the movie.
Yeah, like I liked that you are, let's just say you're Bill, and then you're walking past your house, and suddenly you're 12 again, and you're having to relive whatever traumatic, and they each had a different one, and that's what I loved about it more than anything, is that they didn't skip anybody. They didn't pick who was going to have more or less. Every one of them had a massively traumatic interaction or experience with it, and you got to see all of those full throat. And I thought that's probably what I liked about it the best, was getting their trauma out in front of you. Like, there was never, because to that point, to a certain point, we didn't know what Richie's encounter was.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that took a while to get to, but it was on purpose, obviously, but like, it was intentional that he was last. Because that's the character that held himself back so much for, like, because he's so forward with his words.
Right.
And that, again, is super relatable.
Yeah. And he was also the one who, I think this was in the first one, or maybe this was a flashback in the second one, but they say they asked him directly, "What's your fear?" And he says he's the one that's afraid of clowns, like, specifically. And I thought that was really interesting that they zeroed in on that. Although I'm not sure if that was his thing in the book.
Yeah, because it was very, I mean, they did it super subtle, but then there was like those, for Richie, like the undercurrents of like homosexuality too.
Yeah.
And like, again, it's just, he's such an outgoing character, but then he has like that part of himself potentially that's repressed, especially in relation to his, you know, quote unquote relationship with Eddie.
Well, because that's what Pennywise says to him is that I know your secret,
Right.
and you never get. I don't think we ever get payoff of to what that is.
Yeah, the most you get of is that like his reaction to Eddie's death is heightened compared to the others, and then at the very end, he's carving the initials into the bridge, so it's like there's nothing explicitly stated, just assumptions, but again, like to your point, it's just like that goes against everything that we've known about him thus far. He's the loudest. He's the one, to draw attention to himself with the jokes, except for, regarding that.
So going from that, who is everyone's favorite character this go round?
Oh, that's tough.
Well, like, Ben's super heroic, right? So I liked the turnaround for him from being the new kid that nobody knew to this guy who's like
Super
kind
hot.
of out in front. Well, yeah, and like out in front of just everything and being willing to put himself out there like that. But I think for the second It movie in a row, it's whoever was playing Eddie.
Yeah.
That guy fucking nailed it.
Yeah, he really did.
James Ransom, I guess his name is. I don't know if it's Ransom or Ransom.
Ransom.
But he was so good at emulating what Jack Dylan Grazer did in the first one.
And I know this is like deviating from Jordan's question, but like I just want to take a moment to just like appreciate the casting decisions for both films, because I thought that all of the young actors in the first one did such an amazing job for just how young they were.
Yeah.
And then for their adult selves, I just thought that they did such a great job. And I mean, at first I was just excited to see like James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain because I love them, but then everybody did such a good job, and at first I was a little unsure about how I felt with like Ben, like the actor who did him.
Jay
but
Ryan.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because I was like, I don't really see it, but I think in his acting you kind of saw it a little bit more.
I could definitely see it in his face. Like, in his eyes, mostly. Like, it looked like...
He looked like a former fat child.
Yeah. But, like, Jeremy Ray Taylor is the child actor name. Just like Sarah said, the casting, it was perfect because these adults, you could believe, grew from those children.
Definitely.
Like the mannerisms that they got, like you said with Eddie,
It's perfect, spot on.
The neuroticism and the desire to be clean, like all of that, he just killed it.
The way that he would inflect his voice to go higher when he was like nervous.
Yeah,
spot on.
Also, shout out to Isaiah Mustafa. Who's come a long way from the Old Spice commercials.
Oh my god!
What? That's oh my god!
Holy shit!
That's the I'm riding on a horse.
I didn't even.
Now you're
realize.
with me. We're on a beach. That's that guy.
See, that's when you know it's good acting.
Yeah.
Like, I did not see abs on a horse. When
That's
I saw
actually
him, Mike.
that's actually what he saw when he took that drug
vision.
on his trip. He was on a horse.
He's like, I'm jacked on a horse on a beach. I don't know. This fucking clown.
We're in Derry.
I think my favorite character might be Bill Hader as Richie.
Oh man.
Popular opinion, I think you have there.
Yeah. He kind of stole the show and put on a performance that I don't think a lot of people thought
Expected
that he can
at
do.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I haven't watched Barry, but
Me neither.
I've heard nothing but good things.
I've seen almost all of season 1 of Barry, and just conceptually as a show, it doesn't necessarily grab me, but he writes, directs, produces, and acts in it.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
so,
all of that.
Yeah. So it's almost entirely his baby, and he's phenomenal in it. I missed like an episode and then tried to get back into it, and I felt like I just missed it. And I was like, all right, whatever. I'll get back into it eventually. But yeah, Bill Hader, every scene that he was in, you were watching him.
Mm-hmm.
And his lines were great, just like Finn Wolfhard's lines were great in the first one. Like, they did not hold back from just, oh yeah, we're going to feed him all the good shit. They just kept feeding him, and he completely went for it.
Yeah. It's funny, I read, before I even saw the movie, or I think before it even was officially out, I read an article that said he was nothing but scene stealer.
Yeah.
Like, all of the scenes he was in. So I kind of had that expectation before I even saw the second movie.
Yeah.
Dude, just the scene at the beginning in the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, that was good.
Yeah.
Even when they were leaving, when he screamed at that kid.
Oh my god, yeah.
What is that? So what is that kid from? It's killing me. I've seen that kid's fucking face somewhere.
Oh, I looked him up and I don't remember.
He was in something else, and I'm like, shit, I know who that kid is. And I can't remember for the life of me. But that scene was great.
That kid, Robert, he was in that Dead to Me show on Netflix.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
That was Christina Applegate's youngest son.
Okay. I didn't watch it. I looked it up.
Yep, that's Christina Applegate's youngest son. Yep. His fucking face, like as soon as he came on screen, I was like, I know who this kid is, and I can't think of where he's from. Oh my god.
My
cool.
favorite character was Pennywise.
Same.
Because holy shit, dude. I think the way he played that clown was fucking phenomenal. Like, way better than Tim Curry.
For sure.
In my opinion. Like, I just love how, like, I love how he altered his voice. Like, he was like, oh, you know, he sounded like some fucking, like, Winnie the Pooh shit. you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
When he's talking to the girl underneath the bleachers?
Oh my god, that scene.
I mean, but he does it a little bit at other points, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
He puts on this, like, this humorous kind of like facade, like he's a performer, you know.
Yeah. Well, he did the same thing in the first movie when he's like talking to Georgie.
Yeah.
He's like,
Georgie.
Hiya, Georgie.
Right.
Yeah, it's like he's goofy almost
Exactly.
when he's talking to Georgie. Yeah.
Exactly. And in the first one, like, you get that. There's like memes of it everywhere where he's like doing that dance. Oh, but they mention it in the second one as a joke. Richie does,
Yeah.
which was great, but I don't know. There's just something about that to me makes the character more interesting, you know, because he has like he's trying to like trick the kids, you know what I mean? He's not just some. He doesn't seem to like just some random guy dressed up as a clown. You know what I mean? He actually seems otherworldly.
Right.
Yes.
And he has like a motive, you know?
Well, to me, it's like, I don't know how any of them saw him and thought he was just a regular clown by the size of his fucking head. Because like I've seen, and like just digress like a little bit, I've seen people do cosplays of him where they're not wearing like a massive head appliance and it doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
You just look like you're balding. He's got a massive fucking cranium because he's an alien.
Yes. I am a huge fan of like Bill Skarsgård, and I loved him so much in the first one, and I was like so excited, and I think I want to almost say he outperformed himself, but it's hard to say because I felt like he wasn't in the second one as much as like Pennywise. Like he was in the movie as those like other things, as like the CGI monsters. Yeah. But I think the scenes that he was in, they were just so good. Like, going back to the scene under the bleachers, like, the entire time, like, I felt stressed out watching this.
There's a dread to it.
Because you see he's so sweet, and he knows how to read people. He knows especially how to read children and how to get them comfortable. Like, you know, he automatically kind of goes to her, like, because she has, you know, that, you know, birthmark on her face, and he just knows how to play into that. And, you know, he lures them in to be comfortable, and then all of a sudden he just, like, scares the shit out of them, which is, you know, how he gets that extra tasty, creepy, drooly stuff.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
Yeah.
Every time he would drool, I'm like, ugh.
But, like, I think that scene was just, like, the most Pennywise scene, and was very reminiscent of the first movie. Like, when you think about like Georgie and stuff like that, it was very similar, and you can kind of see how he's able to lure these children with because then at some people he full on attacks.
Yeah.
Like, the other scene that I loved was with Robert, your little child, in the the fun house, like the mirror hall. Like, there's no sweetness there at all.
No, he's just there to kill him.
So
He's just banging his head on the glass.
Fuck, dude. Like, I'll never go in another one.
I don't think I've ever been in one, and now I don't want to.
It's that is like that is the fear in those, is one, not being able to get out, and two, something hiding in there that you can't see because it's all mirrors.
Yeah.
Those are the fears about them. So the fact that, like, Bill just knew. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, that was such a fucking the stress level and the trauma, like, just bubbles up from underneath me. And then he's there, and there's nothing anybody could do.
No.
And somehow it was set up in that they could see each other, but those weren't mirrors.
Yeah. Well, Pennywise, you know, he controls the environment.
He controls reality.
So
he controls a specific amount of reality around whatever he's targeting. Mm-hmm. And, like, I was just like, fuck, oh my God, this is terrible. And he's just, how far back he was rearing to slam his head. Like, I swear to God, dude, watching that scene, I'm just like, he's touching the back of his head on the floor. And just wham, fucking coming full bore through.
I think if anything, that was like the most stressful scene in the movie for me.
yeah.
Just out of the fact that he's slowly banging his head on the glass, and we've seen in the trailers at least him bang his head on the glass one time, but the fact that he was doing it over and over and over while just the dread of that child was just building and building.
The change in his face was like, he didn't ever look like himself.
No.
In that scene.
Right.
He always looked like a monster.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I was like, fuck, man. Because there were so many times in the theater that my wife and I were both like, fuck. Like, oh, no. Oh, God. Like, when Bill's like, yeah, let me go check out my basement again.
Right.
No, you stay out of the fucking basement. Like, I said to Jordan when we watched the first one, I was like, I want to see this movie with kids that are not curious and scared. Like I was as a kid. Like, I want to see this movie with kids like me, where it's like 12 noon on Saturday and you thought you heard something in the basement. So we're just going to stay in the room the rest of the day. We're not going to eat. We're not going to go to the bathroom. We're playing video games and trying to bury ourselves in our bedroom. That's what we're doing. Because that clown will be like, fuck, man. Next house. So the opening scene to get into the movie was heavy.
Yeah.
And was that out of the book?
That was out of the book. It wasn't in the 1990 Tim Curry version, though.
Okay.
And in the book, it's, I think, even, like, heavier.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Because it's, like, it's meant to kind of just, like, symbolize like the corruption of Derry and just how like bad it and like the people in Derry are and stuff. And then so like Adrian Mellon is just kind of like, he's not from Derry, he's just kind of this like innocent, and then that's kind of why he was susceptible to it and could see him and everything.
Okay.
So it really, I was like so happy that they put that scene in the movie. I like reached over to my brother's fiance and I was like, this is in the book. And she just kind of looked at me. And I was like, this is bad.
That's the thing. That's another thing. The book actually, during the time period that they're kids, it actually takes place in 1957.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're adults, it jumps forward to the 80s. Whereas the movie, it starts in the 80s and then it jumps forward to present day.
Yeah.
That was actually a scene that I remembered reading because it's very early in the book.
That follows like Georgie's scene.
Holy shit.
Like you get the way the book is set up, you get the Georgie scene from the past, and then you get that scene from the present.
Yep. Yeah.
Jesus.
So that's your introduction to the book.
Yeah, but I suppose the point I was making was that it made a little bit more sense because of the time period in the book.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's, I mean, that scene there is believable regardless of the time period, but
exactly.
it's way more like, oh, in the 50s, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Versus like in the 80s, maybe.
Right.
You know?
Versus like 2019 where like everyone's gay.
God damn it.
Do you have something to tell us, Jordan?
I know your secret, Jordan. I know your secret, Jordan. What was another so of his interactions with them as adults bringing back their childhood trauma, which one of those played the best for you?
I think the one that definitely bothered me the most, and it bothered me when I saw it in like the teaser trailer, was Beverly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like for Beverly, she's going back to the place that was her home. That wasn't a comfortable place for her, obviously. It was like a place of abuse, and so she's willingly going back there. Oh, sweet little old lady. And I mean, I knew what was going to happen,
mm-hmm.
but still, there's something about young children and old people
yep.
in like quote unquote horror movies that I just don't like.
I can't. She was really great, but what I loved about that scene the most was that they changed the voice from the teaser to the film.
Yeah. I thought that as well.
Because if they had just put that scene straight up from the trailer into the movie, I was going to be really mad. But they changed the voice to a far more sinister, far more evil, don't you bet, like way more fucking terrifying than the old lady pitch that they had done.
They just added a bunch of bass to it.
Right.
But they also recut the scene. Like it was edited differently.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Because I remember, I must have seen that trailer like 8 times.
Yeah. It was in front of everything.
Yeah, and that old lady was really fucking good in it.
She was.
When she paused, nobody ever really dies here.
I love that. I love that.
Good old
shit,
Mrs.
man.
Kirsch.
That shit cracks me up. That kind of like, that kind of creepy shit cracks me up.
Yeah.
Like I was laughing that whole scene, like when she's like in the background.
Oh, dude, there were audible pockets of laughter in my theater for that scene where you see her like shuffling in the background, all weird.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
and then she's like clearly naked in the one. Like,
yeah, there were laughters in the theater too.
But like we talked about in our Midsummer episode, like laughter is a way for people to like, oh, it's uncomfortable, so I don't know what to do. I'm just going to laugh.
Yep.
Because if that were really happening to someone there, they would be scared shitless.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. And like, so that one, fuck man, that one was so good. Did anybody else prefer another one?
For me, I've got to go with Eddie's scene when he goes downstairs into the basement of the drugstore.
Yeah.
Just
man.
because I was like, he's hearing things, so he just winds up down there, and there was the curtain, but now the curtain's gone. And like him seeing the leper again, because the leper was like such a prominent theme for him. And clearly it followed him into adulthood, because like some of these kids like forgot stuff, but clearly like there's still echoes for them.
Yeah.
And so seeing that and just the uneasiness of that scene for me, up until they played the music. Once they played the music, it kind of pulled me out.
Yeah. I don't know
the
what was up
fucking
with that.
music, dude. Oh my god. But it was so necessary.
Was it?
Yeah.
See, I didn't like it because like it felt like they undercut a bunch of stuff.
Well, they did, but they're taking cues from Marvel. Anyway, they
It's not a good thing.
no, they I think that because that would have been, if they played that straight and they just put whatever brooding spooky soundtrack that they were using for everything else, that would have been so heavy-handed. So heavy-handed.
You think?
Yes. I do. If they played that straight horror, they would have cut it slightly differently to get to the puke scene, and without the Angel of the Morning, it would have been very heavy-handed, because coming from what that came out of and then what that led into, it needed a middle to jump over to get like okay, we're all right, and then move past it.
Fair.
Because it got a large reaction from the audience, and then we were back into like, oh man, you're laughing at him because he's kind of a funny character, but they're setting you up. You're laughing at him, you like him, you're laughing at him, and he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it wouldn't have had the same impact if you didn't feel comfortable enough with that character.
Exactly.
True. Good point.
Plus his reaction to things.
Exactly.
Like, he's like, what the fuck?
Right?
He was like so mad that it was happening.
And then
Yeah.
like even his reaction to getting like stabbed in the face.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Like,
he was just like, whoa!
speaks out.
He was totally badass about it too, because he just pulled it out of his face and stuck it in that guy's back, like, and then
like,
he just
calmly did
wiggled
it.
out of the room.
He's like, I just stabbed a guy.
Yeah.
How about Bowers coming back?
Oh, see, that's like such. I was unhappy with how they handled that, though. To be
I
fair.
did not see that coming.
Oh well, see, and that's why it's interesting to get your insights, because you didn't know anything about the adulthood. So what were your opinions? I'm interested, since you didn't see it coming.
So I like the idea of bringing him back. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the guy that played him had to go so Tasmanian devil with it.
Okay. Tasmanian devil.
No, exactly.
Like,
Dirt clouds surrounding.
I think like when it first showed him as a child, like waking up from the sewers, I was like, oh my god, he came back as a kid.
That's what I thought.
Because of the way that it was cut.
And
I was like, that would have been fucking awesome if this fucking kid came back to kill these guys and they see him how they remember him. I felt like that would have been
cool.
more effective.
I did think that as well.
But instead, he was just a lunatic man who gained a lot of weight in an institution.
Yeah.
But like, and that's, and like, I'd be interested too to get like Paul, your opinion, since you saw like you kind of know a little bit more of the story, but you know, in the original versions, he had such like a more prominent role, moving the story forward. Whereas I feel like he really didn't serve any purpose because they didn't, like, nothing was really touched on the fact that it had been controlling him for essentially his whole life. And then he comes back, stabs Eddie in the face. Okay, that doesn't really do anything. And then, he tries to attack Mike. Richie kills him. But in the original version, he actually incapacitates Mike, which puts Mike in the hospital, so he's not in the final scene.
Oh, shit.
That's, like, in the original.
Huh.
That's how it goes. So he's, like, one of its pawns, whereas in, like, the book, and they kind of touch on it in the 1990 version, there are other pawns as well that it controls, including Beverly's husband and Bill's wife. He brings them to he gets them to Derry. Like,
oh shit.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember. What is his name? Tom. He follows Beverly to Maine. And
dude,
then
if Beverly's
so
husband
Audra.
showed up in this one, in Derry, I'd be like, all right, I'm fucking out of here. Oh my god.
Because it's like, she would think it's Pennywise, like, just one of his illusions.
Right.
But in actuality, he's there. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
and then they could have
fuck.
played up the thing with Ben and him.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
I think think it's weird that we didn't see any of his other pawns, and we didn't really get like a. Obviously, they clearly showed that he was being controlled by him in this one. In the first one, it was kind of more open-ended, I thought.
Yeah.
Because you really only got
Definitely.
it through, like, the TV.
Right. And I love that.
That
about
was
the
so
first
great.
one. I love that about it. It's just like, make sure you kill everyone. Like, I love that. But in this one, that might have been like the biggest swing and miss.
Yeah.
Was like really his inclusion at all, because they didn't necessarily need him at all. They had like plenty to deal with the fucking clown from space. Not like anyone that he was mind controlling or something.
I think they could have maybe done without him, but at the same time, I feel like it does make sense from a storytelling standpoint. Yeah, if you're gonna have him in the first movie, then he kind of has to be in the second movie in a way. But you're all right in the way that they handled it. He didn't really serve too much of a purpose later on. But yeah, I feel like I did kind of see it coming. Personally, I had a sense that the character was going to return after watching the first one.
Yeah. And I think that really the only thing that took forever for me was realizing that I forget who the last person was to go get their token or artifact or whatever they called it. But whoever that was, once it was like the movie's turn to show that person getting their artifact, I was like, oh fuck, we still have one more of these.
Right.
I was like, oh, okay. We didn't even get to battle 1 yet. And we're already probably an hour and a half deep into this motherfucker. Like, let's go.
Yeah, that was dragged.
It definitely felt like a 3-hour film,
Yeah.
and not in a good
But
way.
I didn't think it was bad. I would watch these kids do anything. Like, I just keep watching. It's like it's a similar feeling to Stranger Things for me, where I'm like, no, they're good. Just keep shooting, and I'll whatever that is, I'm just gonna watch it. It doesn't matter.
So I had a thought in the theater as I was watching it, because I had said earlier that it didn't hit where I thought it would hit, like expectation-wise.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that I liked the direction they went, but I felt like you said, Rob, you'll just watch it because you want to see more of these characters. So like halfway through the movie, I'm sitting there, I'm going, I don't think I needed a part 2 for this. Like, if it was just the first movie, I would be happy, but part 2 fleshes things out more, so sure, I'll take it.
Right.
But by the time the movie wrapped up, I'm like, okay, and like I slept on it. I did enjoy it. And I would like to see a version of this movie as like one long thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the director, Andy Muschietti, said he's working on a cut of both films, including stuff that we didn't see and including stuff he hasn't even shot yet.
Wow.
Holy
I would
shit.
totally watch the crap out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me wonder, like, how that would be cut together. If it would be
Right.
similar to the novel where it's jumping back and forth. And I'm wondering if I would enjoy part 2 more if it's sprinkled throughout rather than just linear.
Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, I would watch the shit out of it. But you had said something that you were curious about. Did they film all the stuff with the kids for the first one and then just use it here?
No.
Because there's no way that they got Finn Wolfhard to lose like 6 inches off of his height.
No, they
To shoot
de-aged
this.
him.
They de-aged
Yeah.
him?
Yeah, and I couldn't unnotice that in certain scenes because he looks
Huh.
like a CGI person.
See, I didn't even notice.
Really?
Me
I
neither.
thought
didn't
for
even
sure
notice.
you would have. Paul, did you notice?
No, I didn't notice at all.
Yeah, they de-aged them.
I was convinced that they just shot all of this shit for the first one knowing they were doing the second one.
Nope.
That I literally was like, oh, they probably just got all this. I had no idea. Like, I know that for production, those kids were there. But I thought maybe they were just like, no, I would say it like this or something. I don't know. Yeah, I had no idea that they had shot all that stuff new for this. So that's interesting. I can't believe they spent the money to de-age a fucking 13-year-old.
So specifically, Finn Wolfhard and Jack Dylan Grazer,
Yeah.
like those two, I think were the most noticeable for the de-aging for me, anyway.
I had no idea. Dude, no idea. Wild. That's fucking wild. But I'm glad we touched on that, though, because that's an interesting point to bring up.
Yeah. Paul, what was your favorite adult scary scene?
Oh, I would have said the Beverly thing as
Okay.
well. The old lady
Yeah.
thing.
So, mine was Richie's.
Really?
Yeah. That scene got me. Because he thinks he's just in the park after remembering what happened to him in the arcade. And then all the people in the background just stop. And I was like, oh, no. Like, I think I audibly said, oh, no, out loud.
Good old Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, that fuck, oh, my
Hey,
God.
go
man.
up to Bangor, Maine, and see the Paul Bunyan statue. It's
Is
there.
Is there gonna be a man dressed as a clown sitting on its shoulder?
Yes.
Because I don't want to see
Exposure
that.
therapy.
Well,
There better
he
be.
knows your secret, Robert.
He knows.
God damn it.
He knows yours too, Jordan.
Yeah.
I loved, more than anything, I think their interaction in that scene. Because they just felt like they fucking knew each other.
Yeah.
Like, I loved the fact that it was just like a back and forth with people that have known each other for like 30 years is what it felt like. Which is what it is in the film. But like, the idea that Pennywise just 30 years later just picks right the fuck back up where he left off.
Right, especially considering the fact that, like, for, the past 27, 26 years or whatever, they didn't remember anything.
Okay. I love that point. And I brought this up to Jordan and I mentioned it to Paul. But overall, watching these two movies generally back to back, not as tightly as Paul did. I had probably had a week or so in between. The character Pennywise the Clown, for me, is just an allegory for unprocessed childhood trauma. Mm-hmm. Like, period. So it's that they all have their own interaction with him. They all have a thing that they're hiding. They all have a thing that they're scared of. But the fact that when they leave hometown and they're out living their lives and they don't remember it, they can't. Everything's fuzzy. They don't know who they're talking to when they're on the phone. Like, who the fuck is this? is so fucking real.
Yeah.
Like when you leave wherever the fuck you were born, wherever you were raised, where you had all your friends, and you go somewhere else, you don't remember any of that shit. It just, the days happen and you forget all of the stuff that you didn't necessarily process when you were younger. Mm-hmm. But when you go back, it's so fucking heavy. It's so real. You can't get it out of your head, and you're just living, you're seeing it where it happened. It was such a realistic thing. For me, especially, I moved away from where I went to fucking high school. I don't think about those days, but when I go back, they weigh heavily in my brain, and I can't forget them.
See, I'm a Mike Hanlon, so I haven't.
You never left.
I haven't left yet. But no, but I get it. And even, like, to your point about, like, the trauma, if you take every single thing out of, you know, the film or the story that has to do with it, at the end of the day, you're still left with a bunch of kids who have really messed up bad home lives.
Yeah. And I think that was really the point, like, the overall point of it was, like, handle your shit. Like, the shit that's holding you back, the shit, like, all of that stuff from childhood, you're going to have to face it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the root of the story is, like, face the trauma head on. Because what do they do to get rid of the clown? They belittle it and make it small. They use all the things that were used against them growing up. Oh, make it small. Make it feel like shit. They use all of that stuff to summarily kill it.
Right, to bully him to death.
Yeah,
perfect. Bullying. But like that, I fucking, oh my god, dude. I can't get over how much I liked that part of it.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice to go, like, with the film, and then the fact that they remembered everything. Because alternatively, in the other versions, they forget again. Once they leave Derry, they start forgetting.
Interesting.
And then in the book, Derry, like, basically gets destroyed.
Does Derry do like the spooky haunted house that he lived in? It just folds into itself
Yeah,
and disappears?
But I don't remember, so I never checked it. It's like, because every time it had left, and I don't remember if it's vaguely touched on in the first one, like, because they don't get too much into Derry town history, but every, like, 27 years there would be a big disaster, like the Easter
the
thing.
School fire.
Yeah, and then there'd be
Yeah.
like there'd be different tragedies where, like, hundreds of people died, and
So
then
it would be like a
rest.
reset. Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Lots of death and tragedy. And then, I don't know, I just want to bring this up now because while we're speaking about endings, just like that whole common thread about unsatisfying endings, outside of, like, the main cast, my favorite freaking scene, and the one that made me so freaking happy, was that Stephen King had his little cameo.
Yeah.
In the shop. I got so excited, and then I was, like, literally joking. I was like, you could tell it's him because he's the only one in the movie who has a Maine accent.
That's true. That is true.
And then just,
Shit.
like, ragging on the endings. And, like, because that's the thing, it's like everybody freaking hates his endings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, right,
That's
right.
awesome.
The director was actually in the film as well.
Really?
There was a cameo where I think in one of the flashbacks with young Eddie, when he was in the drugstore, I believe Andy Muschietti is in the background, like, shopping around.
Oh, is he, like, the
That's
dude
cool.
with, like, I think he's wearing, like, is he wearing a jean jacket or he has a mustache or something?
I think so. He's got long hair, so his hair is, like, pulled back. But,
Okay.
But
I
yeah,
remember-
that was him. I saw him and
remember
I was
that
just
right
like,
now.
oh shit, okay, everybody's getting their shot in.
I think actually, I read a thing. Well, I didn't read it. I saw a headline or something that I guess supposedly Stephen King's son, Joe Hill. I love his books too. He was supposed to be in it, or
Okay.
there was, like, they had thought about putting him in a cameo scene, but they didn't, which was a little disappointing. I love him.
I've read Joe Hill. I've read more Joe Hill's stuff than I have Stephen King's stuff.
Same actually. His stuff is a little shorter.
Yeah. I loved Horns, the book.
Yeah.
Loved it. Fucking blew me away. Anyway.
That's for another podcast.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to mention that because the book was great.
Did anyone see Stanley killing himself coming?
I mean, yes, technically.
Well, because I didn't.
No, I didn't.
No. It was fuck. I can't believe he Agent Coulson'd himself.
Yeah, he
had to give them something to avenge.
he took himself off the board.
Yeah. His reasoning, I don't think totally made like a whole bunch of sense, but it did. But it was like tragic. But like you don't really get that much of him. But also, while we're just talking about it, to flash back to earlier in the conversation, the casting with him was amazing. For as little as he was, the adult Stanley was in that. I was literally like, okay, like hands down, that was great.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's very clear who all these people are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That scene was crazy. Like, I did not expect that at all. And I was like, once he killed himself, I was kind of just like, I mean, he was just putting puzzles together.
Yeah, that's like, I wish that across all of the characters, they would have delved more into their non-dairy lives, because I think if they would have done that, especially with Stanley, it would have made his death like, I don't want to say more sympathetic, because I think it was sympathetic to begin with, but I think it would have hit you harder.
Yeah.
To be like, to see like what was going on in his life, instead of like, oh hey, here's clearly the Jewish one of the group, and then oh, he dies.
He just really didn't want to go on vacation with his wife.
Yeah, right.
Because that's what we knew. We knew he was going on vacation.
And that's literally all you know. And like you see his big fancy house and that amazing bathtub, and you're like, okay, he's clearly doing well for himself. They all are.
They all are.
And
except
that's
for
part of it.
Maybe Beverly. But like, still.
But
no, Beverly's doing great, other than being abused by her husband.
Literally, Beverly like owns her own frickin' company, which again they don't touch on. So I mean, it could be a little bit different.
She mentions it in passing.
Yeah, but it's like, it's so
She's
casual.
like, oh yeah, that's our clothing.
Yeah.
That's our clothing brand. Whatever.
NBD.
NBD, I'm here with you.
It's no big deal. And then Ben's just like, yeah, you know, I'm just like a great architect, but whatever.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting, not knowing that her husband was supposed to be a druid for the Pennywise or whatever. I loved that. Well, I didn't like it. Okay. But I loved the idea that she married a person that's just like her father.
Yeah.
Because that's a real fucking thing.
That's such a fucking real thing.
It's the cycle.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, that's the only thing that she knows, so she found a guy that does that.
Exactly.
But I said to my wife in the car, I was like, so at what point in the date does she ask if he'll do that for her?
Oh my God.
Like, will you treat me like shit and abuse me? Is it something that, like, by date 3, she's like, oh yeah, he's the one? Like, I'm curious.
It's interesting because in these scenes, like in the book, in Stanley's scene, it's from the perspective of his wife.
Oh shit.
And then in the case of Beverly's, it's from the perspective of Tom. So like he's the narrator in that section, and he's like telling you kind of like how he like slowly started to manipulate her. Oh, and like he would hit her and then judge her reaction and then just continue doing it when she didn't leave him.
Well, that's what we all do, right?
Right.
I mean, Jordan, we know your secret. Like,
I'm pretty sure that's like the textbook definition of gaslighting.
Yeah, basically.
Interesting.
I think that was what opened the book, right? Wasn't that one of the first things?
It's definitely one of the early scenes, because Stanley is the first person Mike calls in the book.
Okay.
And he fucking kills himself. Jesus Christ.
I felt like I needed to do homework for this, so like I was like, after I came home from work, I was like, let me just like flip through this 1,200 page book really quick, because I was curious because I couldn't remember, because it's been forever.
One thing that I noticed, and that was kind of a nitpick for me, was when they went to that dilapidated house. I was like, there's no way that house would still be standing in 2019.
Right?
I was like, that would be a Chipotle.
That'd be a Chipotle. The HOA would be all over that.
Yeah.
It's a fucking condo building.
Well, then I was wondering if it technically was even there to begin with.
I don't think it was ever there.
Oh my
Like-
God.
Like that's like
It was never there. There was never a fucking house.
like when it was like collapsing and you can see like the perfectly nice little
Yep.
house next door, the little cape or whatever. It was like I was like, I don't think that could have possibly existed. I think that was just one
was
of
what-
his things.
It was one of his projections, because what's scarier to a kid than a haunted house?
Yeah.
Nothing. Broccoli,
Right.
maybe.
Well, I guess that
There's broccoli everywhere in that fucking kitchen.
kind of goes with when Beverly went back to her apartment,
Yep.
Yeah.
because that
Exactly.
building was like destroyed and abandoned.
It looked
Right.
exactly the way that she remembered it when she went into
Yeah.
it. Exactly.
So for all we know, like they could have like paved Niebolt Street, put up a parking lot, or they could have been going into a Chipotle. They could have broken into a Chipotle. We wouldn't know.
And they go down into the fucking sewer with that crazy well, and it's just in the basement of the Chipotle.
We're not.
Like, yeah, we don't go over there.
We're not paying for these chips.
They fucking come out. He's got they're carrying a dead body that's covered in fucking blood
Guacamole.
puke.
That'll be extra, sir.
Oh fuck. Yeah. Oh fuck, man.
I really enjoyed Ben's scene when he was older and he gets put in their clubhouse, and then it starts
Oh yeah.
Like- caving in on itself, and he's stuck. And then he Batman Forevers it with Beverly, and they pull each other out.
Holy shit.
I thought that was great.
Dude, that sequence with Beverly was cool as fuck.
Yeah,
was.
that's apparently the bloodiest scene
Yes.
in any movie.
Yeah, I read
It
that.
had the most fake blood that they used or whatever
Yeah.
for it.
That had to have been disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
I'm like,
it was a lot.
And
dude.
and having people coming in through the door, like her dad
Right?
and her husband.
It's just unprocessed trauma. That is what the fucking movie is about.
Thank you, Dr. Robert.
And
She's trying to hide from it.
and Bill going back to the tunnel where Georgie disappeared,
Yeah.
and like talking to him. Here, take my hand.
And then his interactions with Robert's kid, like,
That was, I loved that scene.
Good old Robert's kid.
Dean,
Just fucking grabbing that kid by the shoulders. You need to run.
you need to leave. Like, how does, like, what, I don't know. I'm really bad at kids' ages. So, like, what is that kid, like 9?
He's got to be.
He's
like
probably the same age as Georgie.
Right. So, whatever that age is. It's like, how does a 8-year-old convince his parents, let's just get the fuck out of Dodge?
The crazy man that shook me in the street said we had to move.
He touched you? What?
And the dad's like, "You heard the voices in the drain in the bathtub. We have to stay."
No, you know what? It's dairy. The parents don't care about, like, abuse or crazy
That's true.
people.
You don't know what that kid's parents were into. You don't.
No,
Yeah.
it's true.
And then Bill being in the basement again, talking to his
Yeah.
former self.
And then he freaking kills his former self.
Well, he forgave himself
Well, he-
technically.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, and then he freaking
Dude,
cow thingy to the head, sheep thingy to the head.
he was in the same position that Pennywise was when you
Yep.
see that scene in the first
Yeah.
one, and I was like, "No, my God!"
I know when he had to shoot Georgie.
It was so heavy. Oh my God.
I want to
Yeah.
watch it again now.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in this movie.
So much.
So what about there not being any turtles?
Right? No turtles. I think they referenced the turtle once.
Do you want to explain that? Because I don't think
Do you
they
guys know about the
turtles.
No.
I've heard bits.
Well, I don't know how it's been a long time, and I don't know how well I'm actually gonna explain this, so I apologize in advance. But basically, so the way Stephen King ended it, they like go beyond like into this other like, oh crap, I forget what it's called, like this other like universe type of thing, and there's a turtle, and basically the turtle helps them, and I think
Didn't
that's
the turtle
why...
like create the universe or something?
I think it's based off of like
Yeah.
the Native American legend of like we
Right.
exist on the back of a turtle.
So is that why Mike was like lashed to that lampshade?
Lampshade. I think that's where they got the Native American elements from. Yeah. I was like, that kind of looks like it's made of human flesh.
Yeah, definitely had
Yeah.
like a
It's the Evil Dead book.
Necronomicon.
Oh my god,
vibe to
yes.
it.
Because apparently in the book it's the turtles that help them.
Yeah.
with the
The
ritual.
Throw the whole
With the
book
ritual.
away.
the idea is that this turtle that exists is the opposite of whatever it is.
The deadlights.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, turtles, spiders, not
and
the
then-
same.
and
I get it.
and then more than that though, that's how he connects all of his book universes
With the fucking turtles?
yeah.
Dude, they're teenage and they're mutant.
Oh my god. What the fuck?
You just ruined the Stephen King universe for Robert.
Yeah, I don't.
Dude, I don't think it needed my help.
He's not gonna watch Castle Rock now.
Oh man, but you have to for Bill Skarsgård, even though that whole season didn't make sense to me.
Oh my god, you have to, but I don't get it.
I don't get it, but
But yeah, just the I don't know why I dug the psychology in it so much.
You did.
you really
I really
did.
did.
Well, I mean, it makes sense.
It does.
It makes a lot of
It
sense.
does.
And like I don't know. You think about it, like Pennywise. He's a clown. He preys on children. You know what I mean? Like it's all about that like deep rooted psychological childhood trauma.
Right. And like even like the
Yeah.
book, like the story, it's classified as like a coming of age. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those, so it's like it's all about like the kids and the friendships and like adults suck. Clowns suck. Don't trust anybody but your friends, guys. And don't listen to the voices in the drain.
Yeah, fuck, dude. I can't believe once he said that, I like wanted to throw my fucking popcorn container. Like, no, fucking no, man. What am I gonna say? Oh, so the obviously I've seen images like online and like some scenes from the original. But I remember specifically I was very young at my dad's house. And for whatever reason, I was always terrified of his house anyway. Just shadows and lights played a certain way that I just was like, oh, there's always a fucking shape somewhere. And I had this little tiny TV in my bedroom in there that had like bunny ear antennas on it. And the fucking It miniseries was on.
Oh my god.
I don't know what channel. It had to be like Fox or something. I have no idea. And all I saw was Tim Curry as the clown, and I don't know if there's like a transformation scene in that movie or something, but it fucking terrified the shit out of me. I just shut the TV off, and then I was terrified to run down the hallway to go to the bathroom. Like, terrified.
I remember as a kid seeing parts of the original and one specifically stuck out to me, and it was like in a shower.
Oh yeah,
I
that's
remember.
Eddie's scene.
Okay. Yeah, but like that scared me as a child, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna watch whatever this is. Oh. All right. So, any final thoughts on It Chapter 2?
It was good.
Well, there it
It was a
is.
good movie.
I
Just cut it there.
It's
But it wasn't scary. It wasn't scary.
No, but it had just such a. It was a deeper effect than scary. Like for me, it played more.
I'm with Paul here.
Jordan's like,
No,
no.
for me, it played the scary, the quote unquote scary, like that. That's base level shit. Like, yeah, jump scare, sure, whatever. Yeah, he's fucking terrifying looking, whatever. He's got like 16 rows of teeth, sure. But it's what he does that's scary.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the effect is scary. The reverberation of his actions and what he puts these children through is scary. Like that's the shit. That like I don't care about like, oh fuck a clown. Like I don't care. Clowns aren't fucking scary.
Yes, they are.
Like straight up they're not fucking
Yes,
scary.
they are. Whatever.
I hate when I hear adults say clowns are scary. I fucking hate it. I'm like, it's a fucking clown. It is a very, very sad man.
Or woman.
Which may be the most terrifying thing.
See, hey, when they
Whoa.
strange, lonely, sad men can be very terrifying.
That's what I mean. That might be the scariest thing of all.
Look at Laugh Man.
But like, no, I thought it was scary, but on a level that was deeper than just like, oh, fucking spooky. Oh, he's a slasher. Oh, he's gonna kill you. Like deeper than that.
Yeah,
Psychologically fucking horrifying.
because of the impression that he leaves.
Yeah.
Yes.
I enjoyed it. When I was watching it, I really didn't think about it in terms of the previous, storylines. So as a standalone thing, I really liked it. I enjoyed it. There were some things I wish were a little bit different, but as an entertainment piece, I think it hit most of the marks for me. So I just hope that we now see Bill Skarsgård in more things, because the world needs more pasty white lizard men.
with a floating eye.
Spooky.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed It Chapter 2. I will definitely be buying the Blu-ray so I could watch them back to back,
Yeah.
because I need to.
100%.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I didn't think it was scary, but the more we talked about it, the more I realized that it's a deeper level of scary, like Robert said. But yeah, great casting, great acting. I didn't even notice any editing mistakes.
No.
The effects were really good. Wasn't distracting. Overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed myself. I got lost within the narrative.
It's a great kickoff to spooky season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
exactly.
So that's it. That's it. Chapter
Right.
2.
That is it.
See what I did there?
You said
You
it.
son of a bitch.
You
See,
said
You
it.
dirty dog.
I'm funny. I'm funny.
Uh-huh.
That's my secret.
Oh. It was a really well buried.
Why would
I'm
you
kidding.
call it
People
your
write my own material for me. All right. So for Pop Cannon, this has been episode 24. I'm Jordan.
I've been Robert.
I am Paul.
I'm still Sarah.
Now's the point where someone says something witty.
Dog.
That's all, folks.
Spooky season.
Bill, Georgie thought it was scary.
James McAvoy's fucking stutter, dude. Anyway,
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
hashtag James McAvoy stutter.
James McAvoy's stutter is being cast as fucking fucking Liam Neeson.
In a biopic.
in a Liam Neeson biopic.
I don't know who you are.
No.
But I will find you. And I will kill you.
For Georgie. You have just finished listening to our episode/group therapy session on It Chapter 2. So, obviously the four of us enjoyed it a hell of a lot, but we want to know how you felt about the film. Did you like the cast? How about the kid actors? Did you think it was deeper than just some horror movie with jump scares and a dancing clown? Do you have repressed childhood trauma that manifests itself in ways that you can't even fathom, so it might as well be a fucking insane murderous clown from space? Same. We want to know what you thought about the film and what your opinions are about our opinions. And finding us on social media, you know, the ones that you mindlessly scroll through while sitting at your desk or while driving, has never been easier. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by searching Pop Kannon and throwing a follow or like our way. Enjoy our show? Why not slap the hell out of that subscribe button? And maybe possibly leaving a review? Up to you. Don't forget the K in Pop Kannon, though. K, like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is not the movie we covered here, but maybe one day. Anyway, if you enjoyed listening to our dulcet tones and want to put faces with our voices in the episode, you can search us out and follow us individually if you'd like. I am Robert, and I can be found on Instagram and Twitter at Yesball. Jordan can be found on Instagram and Twitter at JL24FPS. Our returning special guest, Paul, has an Instagram that he doesn't use, at My Dinner with Julian LaRosa. So I suppose you could follow him. And our new special guest, Sarah, is on Instagram at Sarah Ann Dippity, and has a podcast called Fairy Tall Tales, which is a fairy tale and true crime podcast that drops new episodes every Wednesday. You can check that out on Instagram at Fairy Tall Tales or fairytalltales.com. It was absolutely our pleasure to host her for this episode, and I personally thought it was great having her on. She's always welcome back here. If you enjoyed Sarah on our show, let us know. Let her know too. And man, it kind of sucks to not have a follow Brian to put here, because you know damn well it'd be gruesome. Oh well. As I've said, spooky season is upon us, and we're cooking up some fun stuff ahead, including, but not limited to, a review episode on Amazon's The Boys, a review of Brightburn, and some more S1E1 episodes as well. So get subscribed now, because you don't want to miss a thing. How very Aerosmith of you.